Welcome, everyone, to another Sister Science podcast. I'm here today with Melissa Johannes. You guys might remember Melissa from a year ago. We spoke in one of the very first episodes of Sister Science, and we're returning. Um, Today, we're going to do a really deep dive on scoliosis, on the timeline of scoliosis that Melissa's body has moved through, sort of the healing, transformational points, the junctures. And we're going to talk about how this diagnosis is perceived and treated, possibly in that Western medicine world, and how we can see it, treat it, and honor the messages that it's sending our bodies in a sister science kind of way. Um, just for context, as we're talking about the spine today, I'll tell you that Dr. Melissa is a doctor of chiropractic. So, although her current work would be called holistic medicine practitioner, that doctor in front of her name was a well-earned title as well, and really applicable to today's conversation. So, hi, Melissa.
Hi.
My first question to you is like, we spoke a year ago, and I'm always asking people, how would you like to be introduced? So, what's changed in this last year from how I introduced you a year ago to how you feel where you're at right now and what's relevant and real for your introduction today?
Such a big question.
I know.
And there has been so much. And I think as a leader or a health practitioner, an entrepreneur, we have to be willing to evolve and change and allow our identity to change with that. And one of the most beautiful unintended purposes of Hertz Health was coherence. And as I was in my practice and every day discovering more truths about the human body, more truths about what our wisdom is actually here to show us and the intelligence and the capability of it, I have just been so honored to be living in that state of returning to coherence. And I believe that that really truly happened through my brand of, Hertz Health and all of the work that I've done to align myself again, I would say returned into an aligned state. And so, with that, I've had to let go of identities and illusions that I thought were necessary to, one, quote unquote, have a health practice and be a certain way and talk a certain way and be acknowledged in a certain way to the truth of who I am. And I've just really enjoyed simmering in the effects of returning to that alignment in my body and my physiology. And that has forced me to actually release what was no longer in alignment for me and return into a deeper truth of how I can service others and be of service to myself. And all of that is still an unfolding journey.
I resonate with that so much. It's almost like you created Hertz Health to heal yourself, and the pathway now you're recognizing that you can use it to heal others. I feel really similar about Sister Science. I feel like it was a vehicle for me to do my own healing. And
Yes,
yeah, coincidentally, gets to be helpful to other people. I want to read this Gospel of Thomas quote. If you
please.
bring forth what is within you, um, it will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And it's so funny that as you are bringing forth authenticity and your essence, like your true essence, and you're releasing the social constructs that say you need to go get this piece of paper or you need to practice this way specifically or this is the way you make money or earn a living, or this is the way you need to show up in the world in order to have a viable practice. And you're dismantling all of those beliefs in a business sense, but also having to dismantle those beliefs in a personal sense.
Big time.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tell me how that relates to scoliosis.
Wow.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, for years, I'll just explain that my scoliosis is not just a structural pattern. And by the way, just for anybody here listening who doesn't know me or my work, I don't see the human body as a separate entity from your life. I see them a reflection of one another. And then when you look at that, my scoliosis was a life pattern, not a structural pattern.
Mm,
And physically, my body had to adapt around long-standing asymmetries, because that is what the body will do when there are deeper truths that are asking to be revealed in the body. And so for years, that literally looked like me bending over back for everybody else and holding the weight of everybody else. And abandoning myself in that process. And I had symptoms from head to toe, quite literally. Um, my jaw was completely dislocated. My ribs were completely flared out on the left. I have like two curvatures like in my back and an SI joint. I had um neural lot like sensation totally gone in my toes on the left side. Funny. And I had even just loss of circulation in my toes, to the point where they would turn black. Um, and that was what it looked like on the outside. But nobody ever asked me the right questions to figure out what was going on in my life to have that response in my body.
It's funny because if we look at scoliosis as the definition, it is a sideways bend of the spine. And the spine is meant to have three specific curves in it at the cervical, at the thoracic, and then at the lumbar joint. And then I guess your sacral, your little tailbone will tuck under well. But it's almost like this beautiful sort of S shape that slides down your back. And then when we say scoliosis, we're saying, oh, but then it popped out to the left or it popped out to the right. And when you talk about asymmetry in the body, it's that the muscles on one side of your body are constricted, like they're contracting and pulling, and the muscles on the other side of the body can't deal. So they're just allowing that to happen and they are releasing and expanding, and then that pull continues. And it is really an imbalance right to left in the body. And yeah, if you don't see it as what it is, you can get into a situation where our Western medicine community is going to like go in there with like scalpel and nails and joists and start to pull your spine back into place with like the same way they do with your teeth when they go in and tighten your braces. It's like they're going to go into
Yes.
your spine and like, put a bunch of bolts through there and then tighten it to pull it back into place. So it's pretty evasive, pretty
Yeah.
big stuff. And
Yeah.
sometimes they need to do some fusions to try and hold. It's like they're going to yeah, fuse things together. So I like the way you described it. Yeah, like just like throughout the whole system, there was incongruence happening right from the jaw to the tailbone.
Even my left eye. I think that's also
Gosh,
part of it. Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you tell me the living timeline of this. Give
Okay.
give me the breakdown of how you've noticed scoliosis and what the timeline has been on the way it feels like it's healing in you.
Yes. Okay. So I guess I'll go back to the timeline whenever I had ever received an actual diagnosis for that. And that was funny enough when I was in chiropractic college. I believe I was in my second year, and I was in a lot of pain, physically, back pain, jaw pain, um, leg pain. I was so sensitive. I could have accumulated like this many different diagnoses based off of the symptoms that I had. And over time, I had to, navigate that. And it didn't look the way I thought it was going to look, because even though I was in a chiropractic college, even though I was surrounded by like a lot of professors, a lot of doctors, there was even more colleges down the road from me. Nobody was looking at my body like a whole picture. Everybody was nitpicking apart. So I was having my jaw assessed separately than my back, separately than my legs, separately than like all of the other stuff that started to go on. And that unfortunately, I don't know if that did damage, but it definitely did prolong my journey to finding the truth about what was really going on. And I didn't really see it for myself how clear it was until symptoms had settled more and more and more. Because, you just start to feel those little imbalances and you're like, oh, yeah, we're good. But then you start like compensating over a long period of time. And that period of my life, I mean, we were in like 18 different classes at a time. I'm
Yeah.
working on top of that, and in relationship with people and trying to have a social, like, that is so much stress for the body. And at that time I was actually starting to lose a lot of energy because I was also dealing with colitis and Crohn's like symptoms. So there is an order of operations that I did want to get across in today's story. And my body has not just been through scoliosis, it's been through a lot of other um, you know, conditions and terms that I've had to heal through first, because those were more survival based things, right? How am I expecting my spine to realign if I'm losing blood like into the toilet every day that my body needs to feed and nourish? So there's definitely an order of operations that had to happen. So before I even really got into focusing on the scoliosis healing, I had to go through all of those initiations. So that happened. And then finally, actually, when I moved out here to Alberta, which was part of what I needed to do to be in alignment, because I needed to give myself, my body, my being the proper environment and inputs in order to actually sustain the healing that was required. And I couldn't do this healing in the same environment that got me sick. There was just not a way. Also, there are just so many benefits to living in Alberta that I won't get into here, but I had to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to speak to that point
Mhm.
because I think that that is a really, really important thing to see in that when we go about to make these changes that are not in keeping with sort of social protocol or accepted Western tradition and things like that, um, the places that we're in and the relationships that we're in um, take on a lot of change. And if you're in relationships, if you're in a place where that change is going to hit a lot of resistance, then it can be really difficult or impossible to allow yourself because all of your trauma responses around, if you do this, it's going to threaten your safety and your belonging and your ability to be in good relationship here. And so I just think of that idea of moving to Alberta for you as you get to have put some distance between the environment that may not support the ideas that you're going to start to play with and be able to have those relationships like arm's length so that you can keep them healthy. But whereas if you were in right beside them, that might be really difficult to do. Yeah, the more change that we're creating inside of us, the more we are going to allow this wisdom and strength and power to rise up the more threatening that is to the status quo of our life. And we bring in a lot of uncertainty, and people don't like uncertainty. So I just want to add that it might not have even been that you had to come to Alberta, but it definitely probably was what you're saying. I needed to leave where I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
that was, I don't know if I really got through my phases. I just started.
So you just started, you basically told us about that very first phase,
Yes.
becoming aware, like
Hmm.
becoming aware of, so maybe just even just speak to that. If the first phase, finding that safety, coming to Alberta,
Yeah. It
letting
yeah.
yourself have the awareness of it, speak to that.
I think it wasn't about fixing anything in that awareness phase. It was about learning how to feel again.
Oh gosh. You're terrifying people right now because you're saying words that are like, I don't ever feel, Melissa. We don't like feeling.
Well, when you've been a performer for your whole life, eventually you have to
Oh,
stop performing and start feeling. And that was my scoliosis. How can I bend over back for you right now to make sure that your needs are met? Mine will come later. Mine will come whenever. And that was my go-to. And I would do it for anybody. And the worst thing is I would put myself in that position and stick myself in that position for years. And that was a long relational pattern that I had to, uh, I am moving through at this time. So like that first phase, getting the awareness and giving myself the actual environmental safety is what allowed me to feel again. So in this phase, like more physically speaking, this is when I like stopped trying to be symmetrical. I had to start listening to my body even more deeply. I had to shift away from the gym. My body was not actually able to tolerate heavy lifting because I was asymmetrically loading. It just wasn't making sense. And I had to also, even though hot yoga is one of my favorite things to do, I had to stop doing that. And then my life became more gentle. I had to focus on breathing and like gentle hanging and the biggest part in this phase, Jill, was doing yoga with integrity rather than depth. Ugh,
ah,
ugh, ugh. I
yes.
cannot. I was such a bendy as a child. I was so bendy. I was a dancer. I was flexible. And when I get into the yoga room, I'm like, woo, I can get into the bendiest of poses. But that wasn't an integral for my spine or my body. So what I started to do in class, instead of going into the deepest range, actually, how could I be the strongest, most structural and boundaried person in this room right now? And that was a big sacrifice. I didn't do binds for like 6 months. I was like, had to change my class schedules completely. Um, and
Because
then,
you're capable in that room of doing the what yoga would call the most advanced version of the pose. And we
Mhm.
think of advancement as being better. And in your body, better wasn't serving you. That advanced pose was actually hurting you. Before you
It's,
go to part two,
yes.
can I give you the Ayurvedic
Please.
definition of scoliosis, or the
Yes,
Ayurvedic, not definition, that's the wrong word, but how we
philosophy.
read the symptom of scoliosis?
Please.
Okay, so in Ayurveda, we would call it a Vata dosha symptom. And
Okay.
Vata in Ayurveda talks about the fact that there's too much mobility. So think of you talking about sort of, I was really, really bendy, and I could, you could do anything with your body, and you needed to stop. The other thing that mobility is, it's like I'm always going, I'm always going, I'm always going, and you needed to shift away from going to the gym and getting stuff done and doing hot and hard, and shift away from hot yoga. And Vata really does respect how we bring it back into alignment is stability, stillness, So the things that you're saying about even your yoga practice had to become strong and structural. Rather than reaching for that really mobile, bendy ability, you had to pull back and find foundation. And
Yes.
Vata asks for that. Healing Vata requires us to sort of come back to the idea of like, let's find stability, because what Vata will do when it's in the body is it will like the body will bend to anything it needs to try and help you. And like you just said, I think you've said the phrase bend over backwards a
Yeah.
million times. So the movement, the body feels like my movement, I'll move, I'll shift, I'll change, I'll help, I'll do all this stuff. And so movement, you have to find the antidote of movement in order to help solve these Vata symptoms. And that is stillness and stability.
Mm.
So, yeah, movement needs to be slow, needs to be supported, needs to be like mentally chasing that idea of stability over stimulating, because we
Yes.
often go thinking we have to, we have to build strength, or we have to practice hot, hard, hardest, bigger, better, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And Vada is like, no, no, no. Like the word when you use it has to be gentle. Vada would say yes, gentle. It has to be breathing. Vada would be even very careful with breathing exercises. Like
Yes.
we are not doing couple body, you know, really fast, fiery breath. We're doing slow nervous system regulation breathing for Vada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, so I just want to introduce that concept, and then as we go through our talk today, I'll just give you those sort of like what else would we do to pacify Vata? Because I feel like what you're about to tell us is going to be right in line with what Ayurveda would say we should do. Yeah, so excited. So excited.
Well, I gotta just like make a pause and just an honorable mention to you as a yoga teacher because I think your slow vinyasa class was like the first time that I was like come into my body in like a very, very like, oh, like everything's okay. Like we can slow down, we can breathe. And like that class has just been such a beautiful thing for me to return to every week. So I just
That
want
class feels like it's coming from a place of recognizing the Vata um, overwhelm of our society.
to.
So it's not just for scoliosis. Our whole society is being affected by this excess vata, this excess mobility, this excess movement. It's just like spinning around us, and it's not good for us. And so I do feel like I teach uh, vata pacifying. It's like my whole goal, especially in the winter. So
Yes.
one more thing, I want to bring this back to the colitis and the Crohn's, because that's what
Oh,
we
yes.
talked about a year ago.
Yeah.
So Vata in the body, it moves in five different ways. It like the prana comes in and down, the
Hmm.
Uddiyana goes up and out. The Vyana circulates around the heart is the circulatory system.
Mm.
Samana is in the belly and it's the vitiation necessary for digestion. And then Apana is the emptying. And bones, when bones start to be affected by Vata, when the bones start to move, or the bones start to get less dense, or the bones aren't structurally sound anymore, they say one of the first things you have to go to is you have to fix the apanavayu. You
Mm.
have to first fix the downward outward movement in your body, which is, like you said, evacuating into the toilet. That has
Yes.
to be healthy before you could start working on the spine. And Ayurveda would say that before you get to asti, the bones, you have to go work on that apana vayu and getting that downward outward energy working in a healthy way.
So true. So
Isn't
spot
that
on.
funny? This is just like dovetailing.
I love it. Well, did
Okay.
you want me to touch on what I was like experiencing in my life at that first like safety and awareness phase?
Yeah, tell us.
Okay. So that metaphysically, that phase of just starting to feel in my body again, coincided with recognizing how often I was overriding my needs, sorry, not needs. And I had to let go of many identities that I had built around endurance. And going from somebody who was working 3 jobs and attending school and busy, 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 like all the time. That was hard. That felt like a whole collapse of my purpose. Like I thought I was supposed to be here to be an Energizer bunny and do everything for everybody. And the medicine has just been the opposite. Actually, how could you just be a presence today? How could you just be a presence today? Because that's the medicine that people need. How could you just change the room by walking in it today? And that's, been a deeper element of myself that I've had to sit with and be comfortable with and allow myself to have it that way. And so my nervous system started to feel safe enough to begin speaking again. And that's when the symptoms started changing, not disappearing, but reorganizing. Very important.
I think we need to even unpack that a little more because I
Yeah.
feel like that's the stage right now, what you're talking about. That's the stage where people start to seek out their support network that's outside of Western medicine. It's
Mm.
when you start to recognize that, God, I can go to my jaw specialist, or I can go to the osteo specialist, my rheumatoid arthritis specialist, or I can go to a specialist for this. But and it's like a sense, like I said at the beginning, you feel that the truth is something different, even if you can't articulate it. And that's
Yes.
really difficult because we aren't shown in our society how to be in that stage. We are not given any sort of map of how to process in that stage. And that is when you are really well served to find a community or a practitioner, a holistic wellness person that can hold you while you're in that stage because the stories are big. You're going to have the story of who, like the personality you've created, who's the Energizer Bunny, who can help everyone, who can just blah, 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 like all the things you said. And as if you have to take that identity apart, like that shakes you to your core. And it feels very dangerous. There's a lot of trauma response that comes around it. And it's almost like the more you try and let it go, sometimes the bigger the trauma response is to hold on to it.
Mm.
So I just want to honor that place. It is a turning point. It is essential and it is difficult.
And, I can only really give myself a little bit of credit, I guess, because instead of looking at my body and being like, oh, this is gonna be how I'm gonna be for the rest of my life, because I had already had that experience with colitis and coming through on the other end of that, um, I still, even at the level of the bones, knew my body had the intelligence to undo what I had done. And it was never like a fearful thing for me. And that very belief is the reason why I never went and sought out any conventional things because I did not want a brace in my back. I did not want any of those things. And knowing what I know about how conventional medicine or even physiotherapists or even chiropractors operate and see the body, I knew nobody was looking at my body with truth. And so it was easier for me to solve that by myself by looking within, which is my whole business. Hertz Health is the ability to heal is within. We just have to find that congruency within ourselves, and you have to be able to stay the course. It's not easy healing this way. It's not. Of course, it's always easy to go to a doctor's office, be told what to take, be told what to do. But I want to make it very clear here for your audience that's symptom management. That's not true healing. And so true healing is when you are able to create such a different input or response into the body, that your body truly has to change how it's responding to you. That's true healing, and that can only come from the embodiment of your life. Only. There is no other way you can get to that place other than looking at your life, looking at these very deep patterns that are surfacing and going around. And I'm going to just loop this back to the very first question you asked. How does this really change my practice, or, how I'm approaching health? And now I just have landed on this one sentence. I see the patterns that medicine can't touch.
Yeah.
And I don't only see them physically, but I feel them. When I am one-on-one with people, I feel where they've been told an illusion. I feel where they're holding untruths. And then we have to go into that, because if we don't change your mind and we don't change the way you're thinking, I can't get your body to respond differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
I think what this comes down to is you're choosing which hard your life's going to be. Because you did say it's not easy, but you have to stay the course.
Mhm.
And like the hard can be, I got to find another doctor. I got to get an appointment with a specialist. I got to go to that, like I have to follow this treatment plan. I have to follow this diet. I have to do whatever it is. So there's that external work, which is hard. It's energy expensive and it's hard. And coming into like teach yourself how to be with yourself is hard. They're both they're both hard. So
Yeah.
you have to pick the one that feels in alignment. I loved when you said at the level of my bones, I believe.
Mm.
Oh, because it's so true. The bones are in Ayurveda, they are the fifth layer of tissue in the body. And when we are nourishing ourselves, it's like the first layer, the nourishment sits there for 5 days, and it's the blood and the rasa, the lymph,
Yeah.
and it passes it on and it passes it on. It goes through the muscles and the fat, and then it gets itself down to the bones at layer 5. But at the level of my bones. And then it goes to your nervous system, and then it gets passed to your reproductive system. But yeah, I love that idea. Take
And
us to, oh, sorry.
well, I don't want to hold
I
on
was
to
just
your
going to say,
thought.
take us to number 2, to unwinding and repatterning. Is that where you were going to go?
Yeah, I'm just going to say something real quick, because what you just described there, choosing the hard. I had just touched on this in my membership this year. We're in the month of devotion right now. And so the teaching on devotion is not the fluffy stuff. Oh, I'm devoted to my matcha latte. I'm devoted to no. Um, your devotion is shown to me by what you spend your energy on and your time on and your thoughts on. And that devotion will show up as truth of how your body is communicating with you. And so it is to be devoted to the things that are truly in alignment with you. And then you let the body do what the body needs to do. So I just want to touch on that because you said choosing the hard. And I think from what I've seen so far is we choose what we know until we know better. And there's no shame in any of that. And it's just a beautiful unfolding, and it happens in the time that it needs to when you have the capacity to. And I truly think that I would have never been handed this without also knowing deeply how to walk through it. And so that's been my confidence with it by myself, not needing to outsource, allowing myself to sit with the symptoms and not, condone my body for what it's done, but say, what is here for me? So I'll move on to phase 2 because that's where we'll get into more of that conversation. So phase 2 was really the unwinding and the repatterning. That is where things accelerated. I've been in that phase probably since May, I want to say. And so this is where I actually felt the visible unwinding happen. And that was detected because every day I hang my body in like a dead hang for as long as I can. And I remember this summer at one point I had reached a personal record of like 2 minutes and 45 seconds in a dead hang. But at the same time, Jill, I was literally feeling my sacrum and like my whole lower spine just like so it became a little bit of an addiction because I was like literally feeling the physical changes on a daily basis. My rib heads were like releasing, and I moved through like 2 days of very deep grief around releasing a perfectionism identity. And I remember at the end of those 2 days, Jill, like my left ribs that were flaring out, I felt them in real time come back under where they are supposed to. And I felt all the fascia moving around, not to mention my sleep for the last 8 months has been horrendous, but that's normal when the body is recalibrating your fascia everywhere. But this is how my sleep felt. It felt so agitated, so irritated. I'm literally feeling fascia roll over parts of my body and skin. Like I felt like I was a snake actually releasing skin. And isn't that so timely with the
Was
year
that
that we just
what it's
had?
called?
Yeah. So, I remember even my SI joints, they were cavitating differently, and that was a sign of load redistribution. I remember my left foot, I could start to feel things again. My foot began waking up. I had new sensations. I could. And sometimes it was like annoyingly itchy, but I knew it was alive again. And then this is when I had the energy to reintroduce strength training. So I had to do that really careful. Um, and I had to, do deep repatterning of my body side to side and together. And in this phase of the unwinding and the repatterning, this is where I was in the thick of stuff in my life. I have major relational truths that were surfacing. Boundaries just became a complete non-negotiable. Like anything that was asking more of me, I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. It's not happening. I need to stick with myself. It was like a hunger to stay with myself, is how I could describe this period. Um, and then any massive emotional release that I had always coincided with like major physical shifts. So I would feel a whole jaw release or a trap or whatever it was. And that is like really intense when you're feeling that in real time because I'm not just feeling the physical sensations, I'm feeling every time I abandon myself to try and be perfect. And like it is years of memories that I'm crying out. And beautiful Sharon, I'll just make a little reach out. We have a thing and it's called tissue issues. And some weeks you have a lot of tissue issues, and that's when you cry. And crying is actually just the release of the emotions, the release of the energy, the letting go. And I remember, some weeks it was like I had 45 tissue issues. Okay. I did a lot of healing in those weeks because I would feel these massive, drastic changes in my body. And I'm like, yep, we're in it. We're in it. And so the repatterning phase was really moving grief through my body without allowing it to become pathology. So it was like releasing out of me. Also, one thing that happened in this phase was my cycle had shifted a lot. And that was interesting as well. So, my body at this point was no longer compensating quietly, it was renegotiating how it holds life.
Thank you
Yeah.
for being able to articulate that because there's something about that stage where, yeah, it's like you go in to have a relationship with your body, and the very first stage is your highest self going, oh, oh, really? Oh, oh, oh my gosh, you're gonna come in and be my friend? Like it's it's so excited and it's so nervous at the fact that you're going to start this relationship with it. And then as you do, and as your body like is like, oh, she knows. She knows that when she does this, it makes me feel like this. And then your body starts to be a bit louder. Like you said, like it gets non-negotiable about things because it's like, this isn't unconscious pattern anymore, sweetheart. You know how this hurts me. And then your body is non-negotiable about those things. So I bet that for the rest of your life, every time you slide into that inauthenticity, and anytime you slide into something that should be a non-negotiable and you negotiate it, you sort of slide out of it. What I've just discovered is that, oh, my body whips me into shape pretty fast. It's like, and an old symptom will just be there again. And I don't know if I wake up in the morning or something happens and it's like, oh, yeah, okay. And when that symptom comes back, it's only there as a reminder, come back to me,
Yeah.
come back to relationship with me. I want to
Goosebumps.
say about like Ayurveda would talk about this this dinacharya and the way you're talking about daily,
Mm.
daily, I went to my routine. And dinacharya is allowing yourself rituals. We're going to call
Mm.
them rituals because you do them with a different intention.
Yeah.
A routine is something you do so that you can check it off your list. A routine is doing something. A ritual is being in relationship with something. And it
Mm.
can be a dead hang if we're going to use that.
Yeah.
Doing the dead hang is hanging there for a certain amount of time. Being in the dead hang is noticing that your sacrum and your lumbar vertebrae are shifting places and that your SI just hung a bit differently and that you're recalibrating the foundation on which you're building your spine and you're building your strength. So I just want to talk to that how Ayurveda would say we want to be proactive with that because as we're proactive with these rituals, it's almost like every time we do them, we're putting money in the bank. We're
Mm.
making a deposit into our wellness so that when a life situation hits us, like you said, you went through some real relational changes or new boundaries that needed to be put into place. When life comes on this metaphysical side, we want to have enough money in the bank. We want to have enough deposit there that our foundation isn't shaken by those external things that happen. So this,
And yeah, sorry. And sometimes you have to build up that foundation to even be able to hold life in that way.
yes,
Yeah.
100%. And so this whole idea of coming into it with a daily awareness is essential.
Yeah.
Um, okay, tell me about how this is shifting from unwinding and repatterning to a new stage.
This is where I'm now. So, it's funny because I said I'm stabilizing. Like that's the phase that I'm in here. And it's been a lot of integration. And so physically in my body, where I'm at now is I have bilateral strength, which feels stable and grounded and equal. My unilateral, like side to side, is being rebuilt with a lot of precision. And the hanging that I did on a daily basis is now decompressing the spine like entirely, and there's no more stressing because sometimes when I was doing those holds, Jill, and I'm sure you see this in yoga, um my breath would like start to constrict, and then it was like it was so intense, and like it would be just one thing to like breathe through the hang, but I eventually had to like actually scale down my time a lot because I was hanging way too long than my spine could actually handle. Right? We're going to remember that that's a pattern. I
Yeah.
will endure myself to my devotion, right? I can squat again and it's like smooth and confident. My any cavitations in my spine that do occur are feeling like alignment now and not instability, which was like literally my whole childhood. I remember it actually got to a point when I was in chiropractic school that nobody was allowed to touch me anymore because I was too bendy. People weren't able to adjust me. And, I was getting reamed on like over 40 times a day, people trying to adjust me. But I actually was in not a position to receive that at all. And actually, I just want to touch on that real quick because um, I don't know if people realize, but when you have a practitioner come and touch your body, change an input into your body, now the body is going to have to scream louder to tell you the original message. And so I'm not blaming my chiropractic schooling or anybody who has laid a hand on me. But because they weren't looking at my body with the truth and awareness that was, actually happening, actually, my healing journey was being kicked down the road every time that I was being touched by somebody because it's easy. Oh my gosh, I woke up today. I have such a headache. I'm just going to go in for an adjustment and whatever treatment, and I'm going to feel good enough to get through the day. But then you wake up the next day, same pattern, because you didn't actually change anything. You only changed what was different about what you were going to go get done to you. And those are two very different things.
I want to add, because this is another really, really important message
Yeah.
in that you've said the word repatterning a number of times throughout your chat today. And I think it's essential that we understand that repatterning means choosing to do things differently.
Mm.
Pattern is the rut. The pattern is the well-worn track. The pattern is the way your body automatically knows how to do something. The pattern is the current operating system. We can go to a lot of different practitioners that will crack, move, stretch, pull, yank, whatever the word is, into a new pattern. And it's like lifting you out of the well-worn rut, putting you on the new ground up beside it, and then like you might walk out and go, "Oh my God, this feels amazing," because you're not in the pattern. As soon as you begin to live life the way you began it before you came into that appointment, it can happen in 5 minutes. Sometimes it's a day later, sometimes it's 3 days later, where your body just drops itself right back into that old pattern. And
Mhm.
if all you're doing is having someone lift you into the new pattern, and then you do nothing to create sustainability around the new pattern, you're just going to slide back in that old rut. And
Yeah.
this is where it becomes essential that you start the relationship with a new pattern. And you can go to body workers, absolutely, and be like, I fell into the rut again, and I'm having a hard time getting myself out of it. Can you help me? And they can. They can lift you up, but the work is yours. Your
Yeah.
body worker cannot keep you in new pattern if you choose to make zero changes on the outside.
And that's what I was doing for years,
Yeah.
right? It was I'm just blindly going in for an adjustment. I'm walking out. Nobody ever asked me what was going on in my life or, how I'm feeling or how stressed I was or whatever it was. And so that's where codependent relationships in medicine are dangerous, because now you've given your authority, your away, and that can lead to more screaming of the body because the body will not stop. It will not quit on you. It is like literally there with you every single moment of the day. It has your back, and so um, I just it was challenging, to actually look at my history and be like, oh my gosh, like how much quicker could I really have gone through this if I didn't have so many hands interrupting the signal all the time?
Yeah.
But
Oh, and we have to have compassion for ourselves too,
yeah,
because we were taught that that is what we're supposed to do. We
yeah,
weren't taught to go in and listen to our own inner wisdom. We weren't taught to trust it. We weren't taught to listen and follow it. So
yes,
we have to be compassionate with that.
yeah,
Um, you called this last stage stabilizing. you use the word integration, and just now
Yeah.
you use the word authority.
Mm.
What does it feel like to be in your own authority?
For me, it feels very spacious because my authority was enmeshed with everybody else's, especially my family's. So my authority came from how I thought other people viewed me and what um how many things I could do for somebody, or um how much could I tire myself out to make something, work or smooth for somebody else. And so I don't really know if before this chapter I truly had um, the biggest authority because I was looking for it in everybody else.
Yeah.
And
Waiting for someone to give it to you instead of
yeah,
claiming
and now I love it. Like every day I'm like, what do I feel like today? What am I gonna do? I'm so happy. Like I can just do anything that I need to do, that I want to do. But before it was like there was like a constriction, like just like chains, and like in order for me to do something, I was asking permission. I was asking permission from my partner. I was asking for permission from my parents, from, whoever it was. I'm like, why was I doing like why was I looking for so much permission? Because all of my authority was elsewhere. I had my worth and authority just hidden in other people's agendas and things. Um, but now I am the authority, and it's beautiful because now I don't have to over endure in my body because I'm allowed to listen to myself when it's like, oh, sweetheart,
it.
your capacity is not where it's at today. You're gonna play simple and small, and you're gonna do what you need to do to feel nourished. And that's not easy work to do, especially when you have a business, especially when you're holding healing space for other people, because it's not the most consistent life, right? Healing is not consistent.
Yeah.
But I have to put this in this story because none of this would really, this conversation wouldn't be available without what I'm about to tell you. And so I have a doctor friend, and she lives in Denmark, and she did a little energy channeling for me. And I was at the time, I think, oh, I was just curious about my business because I was feeling this evolution coming. I just didn't know how to articulate it yet. And so she gave me a symbol, and that was a butterfly. And so she said, whatever you're doing in your day, make sure that you're doing it in a way that it feels like the energy of a butterfly. And so I'm okay. I'm okay. So I'm like doing like, whatever task. And I'm like, how could I make just doing this task feel better and light and fluffy and like enjoyable and like this, right? And so I did that in every area of my life, Jill. Anywhere where I felt density and constriction and whatever, I went in there and I butterflied it, quite literally. And as I butterflied, my everything came back into alignment. Um, which is like so, and you wouldn't even know like the depths of that. Like I see butterflies everywhere every day, but it catches me mostly in the moments where I'm forgetting about my butterflies, right? And then it's like right there, somebody's got it on a shirt or a bag, or it's on a car. I don't know where it is, but it was my universal sign that kept reminding me, come home, come into alignment, be that butterfly. And I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to touch on the inconsistencies. Butterflies also don't fly consistent. They don't fly in a straight line. And so even looking at that archetype down to that core, this is not supposed to be a consistent journey. You're not actually supposed to do the same thing every single day. You're not supposed to have the same outputs every single day. Like I was definitely not a person made for like 9 to 5 work. And so my even my entrepreneurial journey has been medicine for me because it's allowed this spaciousness and flexibility to have that, extra room for the inconsistencies that just are part of the path. Because if life is the input that's informing your body's wisdom and life is inconsistent, you're gonna have to be at peace with your healing being like this as well. Just like what I saw you posted last weekend for yoga teacher training.
Yeah. I can't do this. I'm doing it. I can't
Yeah.
do this. I'm doing it. I just want to, I'm a butterfly would be another really good example of the qualities of Vata.
Hmm.
Except for that, the way you've described it now is that it's not Vata out of or in excess. It's not the qualities of, like the lightness, the fluttering, the moving, the mobility. Those qualities aren't in excess anymore.
Yeah.
They are back, the way you're describing it, those qualities come back into balance. So
Mm.
when you describe the butterfly, I'm going to change that to the word prana,
Mm.
life force energy. And when life force energy comes into its innate balance, pure essence, the way you've described the butterfly would be that prana, that life force energy is in its right size, right place, right effort, right intention. And then that prana gets to move with wisdom and grace and yeah, like just the way you've described the butterfly. So I think there starts to be, as we find these um, keystones, as we find these grounding points, as we find these icons in our life to be able to follow, it's like when I feel like I'm a butterfly, I am in essence. I'm in my
Mm.
essence. When I feel some of the other words, like I'm moving too much, I'm doing too many things for too many people, I'm bending over backwards, all of these other phrases that start to come in, it's like, oh, this little butterfly's now gone into like honeybee worker mode or something like that, and it's not serving me. And so then you start to notice it's like, oh, now I have to pacify. Now I have to go in and soothe that vata. And yeah, like the way Ayurveda would ask us to soothe vata is the slow and supported movements, warm cooked food, like
Mm.
really nourishing, dense meals, daily practices of not only hydration, because Vata needs a lot of good hydration, but also lubrication. And that's where they would ask us to bring in a bit more oil and
Mhm.
um, that oil in our diet, but also on our bodies for
Yes.
Abhyanga. And then you've talked a lot about mindset, just having to bring your mind, noticing your capacity. Oh,
Yeah.
my capacity is reduced today. I am not going to try and crank out what my high capacity self can do. I'm going to honor this. And for people who are really productive, for people who are really like productivity oriented, that can be really, really hard, can't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It felt like alien for me
Yeah.
not to overwork myself.
Yeah. I've found myself this last few months having a lot of baths. And
Mm.
my dad passed away in November, so I feel like I've got some grief that's processing and asking me to go a bit slower.
Mm.
Some feelings that are asking me to be with them a little.
Mhm.
And that idea of like believing, like, doing the checklist and your body going, oh, and actually, we're going to interrupt this checklist for an Epsom salt bath.
Yeah. And that's like the reality. Are you willing to honor that?
Are you willing to honor that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when I went through the breast cancer diagnosis, I didn't go back to do a check on my breasts because I didn't want to. I
Mm.
didn't really care what the story of the mammogram was going to say because for 10 years, I chose to do it the way I felt like my body needed me to do it. Now, I want to tell you that eventually I went back and I had a mammogram and it came back, it was completely clear and clean. So
Right.
all of the diagnoses that they had found 10 years earlier had cleared and cleaned up. And I'm understanding you haven't gone back for that x-ray yet either. Because
No. Because I don't need to. I can feel it. And this also is backing off of my experience with Crohn's and colitis. I stopped going to the gastroenterologist because I knew another colonoscopy wasn't going to change anything for me in a positive way. I knew none of the medications that they were giving me were actually helping me in a way that was getting to the core truth of what my body was experiencing and expressing to me. Um, so I already had that confidence, right? And at one point, I do have the training. I did have colorectal pathology, but even that didn't scare me. That was just like, whoa, okay, like here we are in that. Let's move through it. And so I moved through it. And now that I had the confidence of going through that experience, I don't need to go back to somebody to take a picture of my spine and give me a thumbs up because I just feel it so internally, that I would never really look for that external validation
yeah.
again. And that's just like time and an appointment that I just really don't want to go for. Yeah.
Now, one of the things Sister Science, like I feel like my mission and belief and vision is that we hold Sister Science in equal regard as Mr. Science.
Hmm.
You don't want to necessarily want to lord it above because if either one of us got hit by a car, we're going in the emergency room. We're not going to heal it with
Absolutely.
our mantra and chanting. And yet we want this over here, this sister science, to be held in equal regard. And so you've spoken about Hertz Health and you've spoken about the journey of creating Hertz Health and growing Hertz Health. And I want to know how Hertz Health is holding this feminine way of healing,
Mm.
sister science of how you're doing things in that regard. Like how does Hertz Health operate, Melissa?
Yeah. It's a beautiful question because most of the individuals who come to me have typically been through conventional medicine for sure. They've been through natural medicine for sure. They've been through functional medicine for sure. They've tried, Chinese medicine most likely. Um, and so now we have this other that we have available. And so actually what I do is I don't, well, we have to clean up the chaos of that, right? I have to address any illusions that my clients have been taught to believe about their bodies based off of that system. We have to relearn the truth about the body. So I have to address that stuff. Um, but from a more like practical standpoint, um, I let whatever they have going on with their other doctors and other practitioners carry on because those were seen as the supports that they need at this time. But we don't carry on without awareness. So, in my work with Hertz Health, we're looking at the patterns that are causing those symptoms, and we're addressing the patterns through how we're living. And then all of a sudden, there's actually just not a need for Mister because we've come back into regulated physiology, the need for the medication is not there. The need for the tincture is not there. So it's not a bashing like this. It's you can honor both at the same time, but let's not forget what is truly going to hold you sustainably. And so as we rebuild the sustainability in a person's life, I start at the physical level, right? The more ritual things, the things that are going to make the biggest bang for our buck to get us the capacity and energy to actually look at the deeper things of the mind and the emotions, right? Because if you have a body that's malnourished and doesn't have and it hasn't seen the outside and it hasn't even touched the ground and it doesn't have water, you would never expect that body to easily change its mind about how it thinks, right? So we have to have the physical body nourished. And oftentimes, once we do that first physical nourishing, most of my clients just leave their doctors or stop taking the whatever, even though that's not what I say to do, but they have already restored balance so much so. And then they're actually a little bit excited around the symptoms because now they can march into the mental and emotional arena and really have a true one-to-one conversation with your body. And the reason why I bring that up is because if we have Mr. over here and we're taking supplements and tinctures and we're doing this therapy and that, that's not a true conversation with you and your body. That's conversation with you and a tincture and a whatever and that is creating a whole picture of physiology within your body that doesn't actually represent you. So until we have that sort of cleared out, you're not even hearing your body with accuracy. And so that's why I have to hold the two polarities, if you will, at the same time. We have to do the cleaning out so that we can hear the message with accuracy, and then we can start making more accurate actions based off of that more accurate interpretation.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I hold that.
We take the supports that we can get to help us pull out of the rut. And
Mhm.
I do feel like Western medicine has supports that can do that. They can help lift you out of that rut.
Yeah.
And we just have to be careful that the medicine doesn't become a drug, that we're not symptom chasing all the time and like, shh, tell it, because lots of times we can get into the state where every time the symptom comes up, we go do something that tells it, shh, 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 be quiet. And that is not the relationship that you and I are talking about. We're not
But
talking
it,
feeling the
yeah.
symptom and then going to get the thing that will tell the symptom to shut up.
Right. And so like even for example, right now, like I just purchased a bottle of supplements for the first time in a very long time last week because well, my sleep is just like, with all of the repatterning and stuff and like the amount of weight and stuff that I'm lifting now, I'm like, all right, yeah, my body wants a little bit more magnesium at nighttime. I could just tell. So, I went to the store, did my testing, and found the right supplement for me, and I'm taking that as a support for a period of time that I need it, and then it's not me relying on it for a long, long time.
It
It's
will
a
fall
short,
away when your body says it no longer needs it.
yeah,
That's a
and
different,
that's
yeah,
okay. That's a different, it's usability with awareness and integrity, not reliance and external dependency.
that's exactly it. Like Ayurveda says, every single thing can be a drug and every single thing can be medicine, and only your body knows the difference. And how you are in relationship to that external support determines if it is a drug or medicine. Oh,
And
I feel
that's
like we
like,
could talk for another 2 hours.
I know. And but even that, Jill, like I just want to touch on like that's not only like just supplements and something that would come from a bottle. That's everything.
Oh,
Everything can be a
yeah.
drug or, a medicine. Even
Running, drug or
yeah,
medicine.
right?
Your
Like going
coffee,
to
drug
yoga
or
too much,
medicine.
like
Yes,
going
going
to
to yoga.
yoga 6 days a week when, you really should only be there 3 times. Like now you've just turned yoga into a drug.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
It's
and
anything that you consume
yes,
through eyes, ears, mouth, nose,
yes,
activity. It's
mhm,
anything that you bring into your body.
yeah,
Any life experience really
yeah,
is measured like that.
yeah.
Yeah, there's so much overlap here. Thank you for this conversation.
You're
And
so welcome.
just like, congratulations. The work you've done is visible. I've only known you for a year, but I've watched the changes in you. And this is not easy work. And we need people to do this work so that they can be that light that shines to give other people to step into their power. So you're part of this ripple effect now of, being the lighthouse.
Yes. And it's not been easy to even see myself that way because let me tell you, Wednesday morning being in a slow vinyasa class, I'm like, gosh, I should be at home working on something. No, 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 sweetie, your work is going to this class and allowing yourself that time. Because if you don't allow that, you're not going to have the wisdom to speak from and teach from, right? And so, like, coming back right to the very first question you asked me, my my medicine has come from, okay, we have this symptom, let's do this to kind of change how you're feeling. And now it's just been a whole everything that comes out of my body in my healing experiences is the medicine and wisdom that I have to bring. It's no longer let's match this symptom with this thing, et cetera, et cetera. And that took a lot of shedding. And so, like, my spine shifted as my life shifted with all of those changes when I stopped living in the adaptation and started living in the rhythm. My body no longer needed to brace.
Thank you for that sentence. I like how you brought it back. I think you and I came into this conversation knowing we were using scoliosis as a metaphor. And I hope that everyone just heard that last sentence. Do you have that written down? Can you say it again?
Yes, I had it written down. My spine shifted as my life shifted when I stopped living in adaptation and started living in rhythm. My body no longer needed to brace.
Oh, because it doesn't matter, you guys, if the word you're inserting into the beginning of this conversation is the word scoliosis,
Yeah,
or if you insert the word breast cancer, or if you insert the word Crohn's or colitis, or if you insert the word, I don't know, pick your diagnoses.
pick it.
I'll say something else. Scoliosis. If you have a diagnosis that has an osis on the end of it, I want you to start thinking of pacifying vata symptoms. If you have a diagnosis that has the word itis at the end, itis, then start pacifying pitta symptoms. If you have a diagnosis that has the word dema at the end, please start pacifying kapha symptoms. And I just want to tell you that because by the time Western medicine is able to give something a diagnosis, Ayurveda is already at stage 4 of disease and is it's identified it in one of the doshas and is ready to work with the reduction of that dosha, of that fault, that vitiation in your
Mm.
body to bring it back into balance. So
I love that. And I just want to touch on one more thing here. I just did a webinar, if you will, called Beyond the Label at the end of 2025. And that is literally, quite literally, what I was speaking to is, you can get the diagnosis, sure, but the name and knowing all that is actually just creating a whole stress chemistry that's being pumped through your body and your blood. So you can chase those labels, you can chase those things, but what are you going to do beyond that?
yeah.
Because your body is asking for something beyond the label, not just the label.
So take what the label's telling you,
Hmm.
and every label is just a collection of symptoms, especially if you're talking autoimmune stuff. Every
Yes.
label is just a collection of symptoms. And when you come to see someone who can decode what those symptoms are trying to stay and start to pacify them, nourish them, serve the message that they are delivering and honor that message, then we can help bring you back into a place of balance and health. Wow. Final thoughts? Do you need to read your sentence one more time?
My spine shifted as my life did when I stopped bracing and living in adaptation and started living in rhythm. My body no longer
Longer
needed to
needed to
brace.
brace. Oh, thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
That felt great to have that conversation. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. So good.